You're listening to Wildlife Control Consultant, where we provide research-based information on all things related to vertebrate pest management. Hi everyone, Stephen Vantassel here, Wildlife Control Consultant, bringing you another episode of the Wildlife Control Consultant podcast. Hey, thanks for coming on board. Hope your week went well. If you're new to the podcast, this podcast is all about technical information about all things related to wildlife damage management. So if it has a spine, we are interested in talking about it if that animal interferes with human interests or public safety. So we are glad to have you on board. If you need to reach out to me, you can reach me at wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com, wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you. You can talk about comments, suggestions for new shows, perhaps you have questions, and even criticisms. You can send it there. Also, we'd love to have you subscribe to the channel, and if you have comments, you can certainly talk into the comments and chat below here as well. So basically, in terms of what I've been involved in, so trying to do a little bit of vacation. My summer has been quite disturbed this year, so wasn't able to do all that probably we would have liked to have done. Been quite busy doing some contracts as well as some other activities. And also but I'm kind of getting to the end of it here, and I'm really pleased I had the opportunity to do some research with the Terra trap, Terra, Terra trap, which is a device used with the Good Nature automatic trap. If you're that repeating trap that you might have heard about, we've done some podcasts on that. And so I had the opportunity to do some pilot work with it out here with our Richardson ground squirrels. It's a little late in our season, to be sure, but I will have some additional information on the use of that for Richardson ground squirrels. So the trap is already used for California ground squirrels, and so I was able to do some work with Richardson ground squirrels to see if it works for us. So stay tuned. I'm going to do a future podcast following up on my pilot work with that. More research needs to be done, of course, but nevertheless, we have some initial information that will be useful for those of you that have trouble with Richardson ground squirrels. And I would think, although I can't prove it, I would think it also would apply to Colombian ground squirrels as well. That'll certainly move out the geography a little bit as well. So, all right. Well, you can see my website here, of course, and this is where I have a variety of materials, including resources and books and other items to talk about some of the things that I could help in terms of training and talking about. And if you have issues with perhaps research that you'd like to have done, perhaps some ghostwriting, perhaps there's protocols you'd like to have done for your company, we could certainly talk to you about that. And also I do some expert witness material as well. All right, enough about me. Let's get on with today's discussion. And let me start with this. My work today is basically sort of a synopsis as well as some additional information from this article by Shane Sater. I tried to get him on the show, but I was unsuccessful, unfortunately, because I think it would have been great to have him on the show. But nevertheless, it's about how do we prevent bird strikes to windows. And so this is really kind of an epidemic across the country because birds are flying into windows. And this is an article, again, by Shane Sater, Sater. And if I blow this up a little bit, I guess that doesn't work for the URL, so my apologies about that. This was published in the Montana Wildlife magazine. If you're not a subscriber, you should be. It is an award-winning piece, and this is the issue that it is in. It's having an article here on rattlesnakes and how to protect your dog. But there's Montana Wildlife. It's not a very expensive magazine, but it's award-winning, and the photography, of course, is epic. And this particular article, we'll see it here, there we go. That is Collision Course, Window Strikes Dead Birds and What to Do About It. And that was published in the July-August edition of this year, July-August 2025, from Montana Outdoors, and it starts on page 18. So I'll be summarizing some of his work today in this publication because I think it's important for wildlife control operators to be able to provide homeowners and building owners with how do we prevent them from killing birds. You may say, well, it's not really a pest issue. Well, maybe not, but I do think it's important for wildlife control operators to be responsible to the environment and help clients navigate some of this, because they're also going to need people sometimes to install these particular products, and this can be something that you as a professional can offer to your clients for those that need it, and perhaps even suggest it and add it to your services that you would provide. So let me pull my PowerPoint up here and get that started for us today. All right, so there we go. And there we have preventing window collisions. And so there you can see a dead robin there on the ground. Very sad situation. So what's the problem? Well, the issue is our windows, right? So our windows are often very reflective. You see those big, shiny skyscraper type buildings with the beautiful windows on them. They're reflective and it looks just very elegant, pristine, but those are bird killing machines. And even your own home with your large picture windows, for example, can be a bird killing machine. Why? Because birds see their reflection. And so how large of an issue is? Well, of course, we don't have exact data, so you kind of have to do some estimates, right, in terms of where some research was done, and then try to extrapolate that out to a wider audience. And the estimate is 1 billion, that's B with a B as in boy, all right, 1 billion birds annually are killed by bird building collisions. That's not counting all the other ways that they're killed. And so, is it the number one issue with birds? No, it's not the number one issue. It's probably habitat damage is certainly probably number one. Cats are likely number two. So those of you familiar with my work, I have a book on how to control free-range feral cats, right? So hope you pick that up and maybe add that to your services. But nevertheless, this is a significant issue, and it's something that we need to be thinking about and trying to help our clients address the issue of bird building collisions, because if every little bit helps. Okay, so let's think about that. So what is the problem? Well, as I said earlier, it's the issue of reflection, right? So the birds either see not themselves per se, but they're seeing sky in front of them when they're coming toward that window, or they're seeing a tree, and they think they're flying into the tree when in fact they're flying into a window. And then they hit the collision. Sometimes they're just stunned. Often they break their neck, and of course they die, or they get a concussion and they die from that. And so it is really an unnecessary form of killing of wildlife. This is why you see me talk about when people say they don't want to harm anything. Well, that may be that they don't deliberately want to harm anything, but to live is to kill. I mean, the fact that we exist causes harm to wildlife, period. And so one of the things that we do is we construct buildings, and we don't make appropriate modifications to those buildings to prevent birds from flying into them. Right? So this is a huge, huge problem. So how do we go about dealing with that problem? Well, the bottom line is anything that can be done to break up or eliminate the reflection of the sky or habitat in that window. Anything you can do to break up that reflection will be a positive change for protecting birds, because then they're able to see that it's not what they think they're seeing, either because the reflection is not there or because there's another object that's distracting them or scaring them to avoid the location to begin with. So this is a very simplistic method. I'm not suggesting that this is the best method, but it is certainly better than nothing, right? And that is putting Mylar tape in front of windows. Now, it doesn't have to be Mylar tape, but it could be almost anything that's going to move with wind or provide a way to break up that reflection that's going to occur that makes a bird think that they can fly into that particular area. Now, another option, of course, is installing nets. Now, that's obviously a very aggressive way of doing things, but netting is one option to prevent birds. So that way, at least when they're flying, one, it breaks up some of that reflection, but also if the bird hits the net, it's going to be a softer concussion than if they're banging up against the solid window. And then, of course, an easier way, of course, would just be installing window screens so that the window screen is on the exterior of the window rather than the other way around, right? Now, and so that would be something for homeowners to be thinking about. Is the window on the inside of the screen or is it on the outside of the screen? So ideally, we want those window screens on the exterior of the building to prevent the birds from reaching the window, but also it breaks up that reflective ability of the window because the screening is interfering with that reflection. An alternative, of course, would be stickers, right? So not everyone is going to be able to install a window screen on the outside. Perhaps that's cost prohibitive or perhaps functionally prohibitive. Here's where you can do stickers. Now, I just want to be clear, you don't have to sticker the entire window, right? The goal here is you're trying to break up the window reflection. So I've just simply put in some stars here just as an illustration. This is not a recommendation on how to put the stars in. You'd actually want to have maybe a star in one third of the window, another star maybe in another third of the window, another star in another third of the window. The idea to do something to break that up. So it's just illustrating. And you could have a variety of stickers, perhaps have something that's going to be with your children, right? Then perhaps they have something that they would like to see. Maybe it's a moon. Maybe it's a picture of a bird. Maybe it's a picture of something that they're very interested in. Maybe it's your favorite football team or the high school team, right? Perhaps a bird may not be the best option because that may involved with some aggressive male-on-male violence, so to speak, when there's territoriality that can occur. But nevertheless, you're looking for anything that's going to break up that reflection. One individual actually took the opportunity to take some paint and just created his picture, and this is a picture that's inside of the article. I just tried to illustrate it here. And they're very small circles, and he basically made them across the window in very elegant sort of way, and to again break up that reflection idea, so that way the bird could see these white dots that he put on and not want to fly toward the window. So I just kind of tried to illustrate that here with my PowerPoint. And you may say, Stephen, maybe you don't have the ability to do some of that. Maybe it's too fine of work. You're not a painter. I mean, I know I don't have fine motor skills. I would love to be an artist. I am not an artist. Thankfully, technology helps me do a few things, but I really envy people who are able to freehand things. I think that's a very important skill. But nevertheless, perhaps it's not something you want, you're able to do, have the time to do. Well, fortunately, there are companies that produce products that you can sell and install over Windows, and this is certainly one of them. I have no personal experience with this product, and just to be clear, I'm not earning any money from these organizations to spotlight them. As I said before, I am sort of summarizing some of the work that's been involved in this particular article, and I've also, I believe, added on material that I've learned from other things as well. Not much. It's primarily a synopsis of this, right? So just to be clear, I'm not trying to say that this is all my idea, right? I read things and I want to then bring this to you, and I've even shown you where you can get the copy of the article for yourself. But one of the products that was suggested is this called Acopian Bird Savers, and it's prevent birds from flying into windows as sort of their company byline. So what they are, I guess, is sort of exterior type of curtains that are on the outside of a window that allow you to see through the window, but it prevents birds from seeing this reflection that occurs, right? So, again, I have no personal knowledge of how this product works. I have never used it myself. However, I wanted to make you aware of it, and so perhaps check it out. Maybe it's something that you would want to think about in terms of giving your clients some help and some solutions so we can stop this sort of massive bird massacre that really isn't needed. Right? We don't need to be doing this, right? There's lots of reasons to be killing problem birds. This isn't one of them, right? So there's another organization called Feather Friendly. You can see the registered sign up there. And again, they have products. You can see it's actually on the windows here. And they're these sort of micro dots that are on the window to help reduce birds as they're flying toward it. They will see those dots and then fly away from it. But there's still some reflection. You say, Steve, there's all this reflection. Yeah, but if the bird is flying towards it, they're going to see these dots and then fly away. I guess that would be the way it would go. And it's backed by the American Bird Conservancy. So if they like it, then you know it's got to have some capability there to prevent that it must actually work, right? I don't think the American Bird Conservancy is going to endorse something that they think is a load of garbage, right? So, but people make mistakes, but nevertheless, I would suspect that would really fly against the purpose of their organization, to be sure. I don't know prices of these products, so I can't really speak to that. This is just sort of an FYI, be informed. And let's try to do something to sort of reduce the number of birds being killed by flying into buildings. Another product, I had to kind of do a little bit of searching for this because the link on the American Bird Conservancy site was broken. So I had to find this another way, and I'm not exactly sure this is still available. So I want to kind of put that caveat there. It's called ABC Bird Tape. And so my suspicion is that this is something that you would put onto the windows and in various patterns. I would assume there's sort of instructions that come with it to help break up that reflection and give birds something that they would see and perhaps want to avoid so they're not flying into the building itself. Are there any other ideas to prevent bird collisions? And the answer is yes. I mean, one simple one, and this is one that I recommend, or perhaps I should say suggest to people, like when they have the robin pecking at the window, when it's territorial and it's usually in the spring, right? The bird sees its reflection, thinks it's an opposing male, right? And so he goes up and starts banging on your window. Well, one of the simple ways of doing that is just taking some liquid dish detergent and just smearing that over the window to blur the view. Now, is that going to blur your view on the other side of the window? The answer is yes, it will. However, it will stop that pecking on the window. And it would also prevent a bird from seeing a reflection and flying into it, in my opinion, as well. Plus, you have the ability to just take a hose and you can then wash it off, and so you wash your windows at the same time, right? So that is something to be certainly to think about. You also could think about if you're dealing with pecking or if you're trying to get rid of the reflection, and that is put some sort of a light behind the window that would eliminate the reflection of the window. Or you'd have a light on the outside of the window that, again, that would eliminate that reflection, because the reflection occurs when the angles of light are hitting the window at certain ways. So I'm not a specialist in visual technology and light technology, but those would be things that you'd want to be thinking about how to disrupt that reflection, so the bird isn't thinking it's seeing sky and trees that it's trying to fly to. Right? And then, of course, you would not want to put a bird feeder right up against the window, right? That would probably be something that now you're attracting birds to the particular spot. So you'd want to have that away from the structure. And again, there are going to be exceptions in different ways, but think about what is going to happen with that bird as it's coming toward the structure. So just a reminder again, here is that article that you can certainly come to. So this is a different link than the one we showed earlier, but nevertheless, it's the Montana Outdoors July-August 2025 issue, and the article is by Shane Sater. I hope I'm pronouncing that last name right. And you can see in just collision course. So if you just did a Google search on collision course Montana Outdoors 2025, you'll be able to get this particular article and take a look at it. And I think you'll find it tragic. They have a photograph in there that shows how one building, how many birds were killed by that building in 1 year. It'll break your heart if you have any type of soul at all. And it's certainly something that we want to be thinking about. And if you're like, you don't care, well, maybe we could look at it a little bit more in business-wise. If we don't have birds, we're not going to be able to do bird work. Okay? So think about that. Maybe if you can't do it just because it's the right thing to do, then think about how it's going to impact your pocketbook. And that is, the more birds are dying, of course, if there are no birds, we don't have to do any bird work. Okay? So definitely think about that as well. Well, I hope you found that informative for you. And again, I'm Stephen Vantassel. I'm the owner of Wildlife Control Consultant, where we cover all things related to the research-based management of vertebrate pests. You say, well, today's podcast wasn't about vertebrate pest control. No, but it is about vertebrate control in the sense we're trying to prevent unnecessary deaths of animals, and that may be a desire of your client, and hopefully it will be, as sometimes people just aren't aware of it, but this could be another profit stream for your particular business. And I hope that it is, and I hope we're going to learn more and perhaps have different technologies and materials that can assist people in making their homes safe for themselves and, of course, safe for non-damaging wildlife that are simply wanting to live and not want to fly into their building and die. So I hope that's a passion that you could adopt, even if you adopt it just a little bit. I hope that's the case. Again, please subscribe to the channel. We'd love to hear from you. If you have comments, you can put those, of course, below. And if you have questions, comments, thoughts, you want to reach out to me directly, perhaps you have a topic you'd like to have covered, or a question, or perhaps even a criticism, you can reach me at wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. So that's it for this week. And stay tuned. We're going to talk about the terror trap down the road here. So hopefully you're going to subscribe and be aware of new episodes that come out. I tend to publish about once a week. So that for this week, that's about it for me. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
This is the disclaimer for Wildlife Control Consultant Podcast. Vertebrate pest control is an inherently dangerous activity involving risk of bodily injury to you, others, and or property. Vertebrate pest control also involves legal issues, so be sure to always follow national, state, provincial, and local laws when using pesticides and or other control methods when controlling pests. Wildlife Control Consultant, LLC, Stephen M. Vantassel, or their affiliates are not responsible for your use of the information provided here. Always consult a qualified and appropriate professional before employing the information provided here.